We're a few days into free agency opening up in the NBA world, and already we've seen surprises pop up out of nowhere on quite a few occasions. Some teams stuck to the script and made pretty predictable moves, while others have steered their ship off course and went rogue doing deals that nobody saw coming. And amid all of the madness, there have been plenty of great signings and some not so great signings made. That brings us to today's video, where we'll be going through the worst and the best signings of free agency so far, based on how much the player was paid, the skill set that they bring to the table, and their fit on their new teams. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but it also very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first signing that we'll be discussing today that falls into the best signings category is actually Julius Randle re-signing with the Minnesota Timberwolves for 3 years and $100 million. I really wasn't expecting to ever include a Julius Randle contract extension in a video like this, but this is objectively really good value for a player of his caliber. I'm well aware that Randle is a player that typically carries a negative connotation in the minds of most basketball fans, and I'd be lying if I said I wasn't in that group for a long time for good reason. But the season that he just had in Minnesota proved he was a strong fit, and as a player that has been named an All-Star 3 times in his career, the Wolves were able to keep him for less than max contract money. For reference, Michael Porter Jr. is being paid more money than Randle in each of the next 2 seasons, and the Nuggets just had to trade MPJ away because of how detrimental his presence was on the payroll. The Wolves managed to bring out the best in Randle during his time in the playoffs too, which is the biggest green flag of all, because Randle had previously been a horrible playoff performer, and after making a run to the conference finals together, keeping him around on a reasonably team-friendly contract is a big win for him and Minnesota. Now over to the first signing we'll be discussing today that lands in the worst signings category. We have Myles Turner signing with the Milwaukee Bucks for 4 years and $107 million. This was one of the most unexpected signings of the entire period so far, and I'm not going to pretend to be wowed by it, nor am I going to act like it saves the Bucks from impending decline. I actually made an entire video about the current state of the Bucks that I uploaded earlier this week, so if you want my full thoughts on the matter, you can go watch that after you watch this video, but basically, I view this signing as the Bucks front office being in denial. They're trying their hardest to delay the inevitable, but destiny is about to arrive no matter what. The Bucks' last 2 seasons have been disastrous, getting eliminated in the first round of the playoffs each of those years, and now with Damian Lillard injured and off the team after being waived, they're pretty much completely out of the running in the East, even with Giannis Antetokounmpo. Signing Myles Turner to replace Brook Lopez is not nearly enough of an upgrade to salvage things, and his defensive impact is wildly overrated by his impressive shot blocking numbers, because his impact metrics during the Pacers' playoff run to the NBA Finals actually indicated that the defense of the team got better with him on the bench, and paying up big money to lock him in long term when Giannis could request a trade at any moment just doesn't make much sense. Now, the next of the best signings from the period that we'll be discussing today is Taius Jones signing with the Orlando Magic for 1 year and $7 million. The Magic are a dominant defensive team that ranked number 2 in the league on that end last year, but offensively, they can look pretty clueless at times. They desperately needed 2 things this offseason: playmaking from the point guard position and quality shooting talent to space the floor. They traded for Desmond Bane to address one of those things, and now signing Taius Jones actually sort of addresses both of those in one. I'm not here to pretend that Taius is an all-star caliber guy who will single-handedly resurrect their offense, but he is a strong solution for 1 year, so the Magic can buy themselves more time as they try to find their long-term solution. Taius Jones is a high IQ floor general point guard that plays within the flow of the offense, makes the right reads, and is a solid passer, and he even knocks down 41% of his threes. His game may not be flashy, but he'll make the lives of Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, and Desmond Bane a lot easier, and their symmetry should result in better quality shots on offense across the board. Now back to the next of the worst signings so far, we have D'Angelo Russell signing with the Dallas Mavericks for 2 years and $13 million. On the surface, this may not actually seem like that bad of a signing since D'Lo has had a pretty entertaining career and his playmaking and shot creation have been pretty useful throughout most of his time in the league, but when you dig a little deeper, you come to realize that at this point in his career, he is no longer the guy dazzling on a nightly basis. He's coming off of the worst season he's had as a pro, scoring a pretty empty 12 points per game, shooting 39% from the field and 31% from 3. His numbers tanked even further after the Lakers traded him to the Brooklyn Nets last season, where he was one of the least efficient volume scorers in the entire league, and on top of it all, he's one of the worst defenders the NBA has to offer. After all of the Luka Doncic stuff, where the Dallas general manager, Nico Harrison, repeatedly emphasized that he believes defense wins championships, but if that was really his rationale on the open market, then signing D'Angelo Russell to fill in for an injured Kyrie Irving when Russell is one of the worst defenders in the game just makes him look like a huge hypocrite. Now back over to the next of the best signings of the period, we have Ty Jerome signing with the Memphis Grizzlies for 3 years and $28 million. Ty Jerome just had an incredible breakout season as Cleveland's 6th man and was in the running for 6th man of the year, which in most cases would have led to a big payday coming his way when he entered free agency. Unfortunately for Jerome, there just wasn't a whole lot of money available on the open market this summer, but that simultaneously benefits the Grizzlies in a big way because they were able to bring him in on an absolute steal of a deal. Ja Morant is obviously the one running the show, but in Cleveland, Ty Jerome proved he could succeed both on and off the ball, so he can play in lineups next to Ja Morant, he can reliably run the offense when Morant is on the bench, and he can even play alongside breakout point guard Scottie Pippen Jr. in a bench lineup too, giving the team even more playmaking options in the rotation, which, after trading away Desmond Bane, is very welcome. Jerome was one of the most efficient scorers in the league last year, shooting 52% from the field and 44% from 3, while putting up about 13 points per game. So even though he struggled in the Cavaliers' playoff series against the Pacers, he's still an outstanding addition to a Grizzlies team that needed the backcourt help. Now back over to the next of the worst signings of the period, we have Dennis Schroeder signing with the Sacramento Kings for 3 years and $45 million. Schroeder proved to be a helpful part of the Pistons making it back to the playoffs for the first time in 6 years, and even had a few rock-solid games in their playoff series against the Knicks, but when you zoom out, he really didn't have that great of a season as a whole, and for the Kings to take a few good games and convince themselves he can be their starting point guard because of them, it's a bit of a reach. On the year as a whole, Schroeder averaged about 13 points and 5 assists per game, shooting 40% from the field and 34% from 3. Both numbers being below league average. In his time specifically on the Pistons at the end of the year, things got even worse, where he averaged just 11 points, shooting 38% from the field and 30% from 3. Schroeder is a 31-year-old veteran of the game who has the craftiness on the ball, the speed and the playmaking ability to get hot and put up some big outings, but on a night-to-night basis, there's a reason why he's never been able to stick as a team's starting point guard, and for the Kings to pay him like one seems like something that will backfire. Now, as for the final signing that we have in the best signings category, it's Dorian Finney-Smith signing with the Houston Rockets for 4 years and $53 million. The Rockets finishing as the 2 seed this year proved they had the potential to compete with the big dogs this past season, but ultimately their first round exit from the playoffs came a bit predictably because they were still missing a few things that a team that gets taken seriously has. Obviously, when they traded for Kevin Durant to be their go-to guy on offense, they checked the biggest box of all on their to-do list, but signing a player like Dorian Finney-Smith is a move that tells the NBA world they are not messing around and are 10 toes down, all going all in on the Larry O'Brien trophy. DFS is one of the league's premier 3-and-D forwards as a versatile defender that does the dirty work while also being a 41% shooter from 3, burying teams that sag off trying to slow down the team's stars. Houston was in the bottom third of the NBA in three-point shooting last year, so the fact that he can improve them in that regard while fitting into what they like to do on defense will go a long way, and managing to steal him away from the Lakers is a move that I don't think anybody expected to even be possible. And finally, the last signing in the worst category is Deandre Ayton signing with the Los Angeles Lakers for 2 years and about $17 million. The Lakers had one glaring hole in their roster coming into the offseason, and their only real mission was to address it by finding a starting caliber center to hold things down in the middle, because they really didn't have any centers on their roster. Deandre Ayton technically checks that box, but if I were a Lakers fan, I would be incredibly underwhelmed by the fact that this is the solution they ended up with. Ayton's NBA career has not panned out at all how it was expected to go after being the #1 pick in the 2018 NBA draft, where new teammate Luka Doncic was actually passed on and selected 3rd overall. Ayton's work ethic, effort on the court, and drive as a player has been questioned for years. He's regressed pretty substantially over time, and last season in Portland, the Blazers were 5.1 points worse per 100 possessions with him on the court compared to when he was on the bench. On paper, he has the skills to fill the role the Lakers are looking for, but in reality, he's a frustrating teammate, and it's hard for me to buy into him changing his ways for the Lakers when he was literally playing for a Suns team that was in the NBA Finals and didn't change his ways then. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below which signings you thought were the best and the worst so far. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.